You're listening to Black Parents Aging, where we help you navigate caring for aging loved ones. Every Wednesday, we'll discuss how to help your parents successfully navigate this new season of life. We are going to talk about legal, health, technology, and finances. Here's your host attorneys, Olivia Smith and Nicola Robinson.
Hi, guys. Welcome back. And thank you for joining us for another episode of Black Parents Aging Podcast. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, I'm your host, and I have my co-host with me, Olivia. Say hi.
Hey, everybody. Glad to be back.
We are glad to have you here, Miss Olivia. And today we have something very, I think, fun to talk about. Today, we are talking about estate planning mistakes. I personally think it's fun because it is a sad tale of what not to do.
Yes. Cautionary. It is a cautionary tale.
So for this episode, we thought we would highlight for you guys some estate planning mistakes some of our more affluent members of the African American community have made in the past.
Yes.
Given that it is Black History Month, we thought this would be a very relevant topic. You know, we're talking about history, and I think that sometimes we need to learn from our history. We need to see what other people have done and realize we don't want to necessarily repeat that history.
Absolutely. Yes.
All right. So a lot of the mistakes we see in estate planning can really go back to, I think, procrastination. I think a lot of the people we're talking about today comes down to procrastination. Sometimes we have people who've done estate planning, but they have really old wills. They leave everything to a former partner or a former spouse, or at the time they did the will, they only had one kid, or maybe, you know, they had not reached a certain level of success. And so what they had in place really did not take into account the life that they end up living.
Absolutely.
So also, before we get deep into this episode, let me also be clear, y'all. It's not just Black people that make these mistakes.
It's not. That is true.
It is not unique to African Americans, but we want to highlight some African Americans.
Yes.
So, you know, sometimes we need to see ourselves and say, hey, can happen to us. So without further ado, we're going to talk about some estate planning mistakes.
Yes.
You want to start us off?
I will get us kicked off. So, in considering just a few examples, let's start with Barry White. He was 58 when he died. He died in 2003. And I'm using, you can't see me, but I'm using quotation marks, that it was reported that he had at least 9 children when he died. He was on his second wife. His second wife, Glodine, I think, had been separated for many years, but they had not divorced. And they had 4 children together. He had done a will, like Nicola said, some people had tried to be proactive. So he had done a will, but it was very old. And because his life was complicated, he had different sets of children from his past. In 1988, 8 years after his will was written, his daughter Denise discovered that he was her father. Fast forward to 2003, his longtime partner at the time of his death, Catherine Denton, just 4 weeks before he died, she gave birth to a baby girl. She claimed that he was the father. However, paternity tests reveal that he was not the father. Now, his still legal but longtime separated wife allowed his life partner to live in the house. I know, y'all, it's a lot, but let's not pretend that like we don't know these types of stories in our own family. So his estate made sporadic payments to the adult kids for 12 years, but the payments stopped in September 2015. And the kids alleged that Glodine, his legal wife, refused to show them a copy of the will. And so in 2017, now he died in 2003. In 2017, they sued. And as far as we know, that case is still pending.
Let's talk about it. He had a first wife, a current wife, a girlfriend, 9 kids. Like
it's insane. It's insane. But
it's real. Life gets so complicated.
It does.
and this is not unique to Barry. Like, I'm not putting shade on Barry because we all know people like that. I have people on my family tree who separated and never divorced their first spouse.
That's a common thing.
Yeah, I could think of one example. Their first spouse, there was some abuse or alleged abuse. This was before I was born, y'all. And so, you know, she left that spouse and has been with the person that she is currently with, I want to say 20, maybe more, 20 plus years. But legally, she's still married to that first spouse.
Yes. And legally, if something happens, the person that she hadn't spoke to in all that time, they're going to get everything. Yeah. Like, I think our life is complicated. Like, whether or not you got 9 children and 3 women, life is complicated. And I think the important thing is that we get that estate planning helps to simplify some of those things. Otherwise, you know, this is pending. This case is pending. So otherwise, your family is in court battling it out.
All right, let's talk about my next person.
Okay. Okay.
This is my girl. I loved her dearly.
I'm not ready.
Y'all, I was a super fan. I mean, Bodyguard, pick one. I was there for everything she put her hands on. I still listen to that Wait and Exhale soundtrack like it's so good. Brand new.
It's so good.
So y'all know, we talking about your girl, Whitney Houston. Yeah. Whitney was 48 when she died. And she, again, had a very old will. We cannot stress this enough. Your will needs to evolve with your life.
Yes.
Every 3 to 5 years, you should be looking at those documents and saying, hey, does this still fit my lifestyle?
Absolutely.
Talk to your parents. See when was the last time they updated their will. Do not just say, hey, mom and dad, do you have a will? Because they're going to say yes.
But if it's from 1980,
right.
then it's just like not having one. The other thing, though, in mine and yours, is they died relatively young. And I think sometimes we think, oh, we got time, we're going to live forever. And we don't know.
Whitney was only 48, y'all. Now, her will was drafted in 1993, and then she did make a change in 2000. So at some point, Whitney did have the foresight to go back and look at it. And that named Bobby Christina as her sole heir. So a lot of times people are triggered to review their documents at the birth of somebody or the death of somebody. And that's always a good time to say, okay, I might need to add some stuff or I might need to take away some stuff in my will. So when she named Bobby Christina as her heir, remember Bobby Christina herself died in 2015. So she died 3 years after her mother, Whitney.
So sad.
And the will stipulated that if Bobby Christina was unmarried at the time of her death without any children of her own, and she had no will of her own, the estate of Whitney Houston was to divide everything among Whitney's living relatives. And y'all know the story. Bobby Christina was still very young. She was not married and she did not have any kids.
Yeah.
So in the will, the relatives that were listed for Whitney Houston were her mother, y'all know Chrissy, and her brothers, Michael and Gary. Her father, who had died in 2003, who had predeceased her, was also listed. And so was Bobby Brown, y'all. And y'all know that. Y'all know how that went.
Right.
They divorced long before that. They divorced in 2007. And because they had divorced and it was finalized, he didn't inherit anything out of Whitney's estate. So really her estate went to just her living heirs at that time. And we've seen exposés and stories about people that Whitney she was just very close to, that were not related to her. And none of those people were able to inherit because her will did not outline any of that.
The other thing about this one, though, is it shows how like people will be married to someone and they'll forget, even like life insurance beneficiaries, they'll forget after they get divorced or they part ways that you have to go back and change that. Thank goodness, because they were divorced, it by operation of law, he didn't inherit. But if he'd have had a life insurance policy, it would have paid directly out to him if she had not updated when they divorced.
And we don't know. We don't even know.
Oh, that's
she
true.
May have.
That's
she
true.
may have.
That's
Because if
true.
she never updated her will to take him out, it's highly possible
That's
that she
true.
never updated her beneficiary forms to take him out either. So just because he didn't get part of her estate, that don't mean he didn't have a come up at the time of her passing.
That's true. So, okay, here I go with the next one. So you had Whitney. Now I'm going to the king of pop, Michael Jackson. He was 50 when he died, and that was in 2009. Wow. Time really flies. Like for him and Whitney, it doesn't seem like it's been that long. His will had been drafted in 2002. So that's pretty good. That's 7 years. He drafted his will. And then in 2009, he passed. Marvin Gaye is another one who was 44 years old in 1984 when he was fatally shot by his father. He didn't have a will. Some other younger examples of African Americans who died without a will are Bob Marley, who died at 36, Tupac, who died at 25, Jimi Hendrix, who was 27. And so it goes to show you, like, these people were so successful. So you know that they had potentially a lot in their estates, and they had no will. So just imagine how the fighting and the confusion was, because we fight when there isn't really anything in the estate. So to have millions of dollars or to have a substantial amount of assets, you can imagine how the families have fought.
And I could tell you, I follow the shenanigans of the Marley family pretty closely. You know, I'm Jamaican born.
Of course.
And so most Jamaicans know all that is still happening with Rita and the kids. And to this day, the family is still trying to sort all that out.
Yeah.
Bob had several kids.
Yes.
We all know that. And he was only 36, but he was an icon. He
still is. Yes.
Yeah. My child is named after him, y'all.
Yes.
Like, that's how much I love Bob Marley. So I keep up with everything. But yeah, they're still going to court. It is. And the sad reality is, when you don't have a will, the only people that really win are the court system and the attorney.
Absolutely.
And I think people don't realize that so much of the estate gets diluted because it gets to pay up attorney's fees. It gets to pay, all these other people that the courts may have to bring in, evaluators and assessors. And so money that could have gone to the family and to the kids, it's gone.
They never see it. And all of these people are so young. I'm trying to figure out, I can't remember off the top of my head whether the Jackson estate, whether that has been settled or not. I know they fought for so long, and all of these people were young. And so it's just a reminder to us, you say, oh, I'm just 30. Oh, I'm just 40. I have time. You don't know. You don't know.
I think, for our audience, a lot of times we're talking about how to talk to your parents, but I think this episode is really for you that's listening.
Absolutely.
You might be 44. You might be 36. We know for sure that no day is promised. And none of these people, while they may be celebrities, they were not excused from death. They did not get a pass.
No.
And that is something that we are all going to have to deal with at some point. So getting our documents in place and making sure that we have the documents that can speak for us on what we want to see with our things, it's just so critical.
Absolutely. I agree.
All right, Nicola.
Go on and finish us up, girl.
All right, y'all. I'm going to talk about the last one. I feel like we've talked about the king of pop. We've talked about my girl, Whitney. And then now we got to talk about the queen of soul.
Oh, gosh.
It's a new documentary or a new movie coming out about her. I'm really excited about that. But yes, y'all, let's talk about your girl, Aretha. Aretha Franklin was, the bomb.com. Let's just be real. She was not only an amazing singer, but she was a really passionate civil rights activist. And I know a lot of that is going to come out in this movie. So I'm really, really excited about that. But I could think of a million hits by her right now.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? A little respect, y'all.
Yes. That's
a natural woman.
Yes.
That list is long. And we all have admired her and everything. But when she died of pancreatic cancer in 2018, now she was a little older. She was 76. And she didn't die suddenly. I think that is also something that is kind of shocking or kind of disheartening about Aretha's estate. She had cancer. She stopped, touring. She stopped recording. She wasn't like some of these other artists who, maybe were murdered or questionable deaths. She was sick and she knew she was sick. And she had gone into hospice and had been there for a while. At the time of her death, it was estimated that her estate was probably about $80 million, y'all.
Wow.
She had them coins. She had coins. They say she owed a lot in taxes, but that's neither here nor there. So the amount about the taxes and everything was disputed by her lawyer. Let's talk about her lawyer.
Oh no. I knew that was coming.
She had the same lawyer for 28 years. 28. And somehow now he alleges that he kept trying to encourage her to do an estate plan and to create a trust.
Let me just defend him for a minute, because like we know people that call us and then we have to chase them down because we need documents. We need them to finish the process. And it can be really difficult to get people all the way to the finish line on this. So maybe he's telling the truth.
I'm not even going to throw shade at him because I think you're absolutely right. I think about some of my own family members. Like if we going to be real with the people, they know what I do. Yes. They know my number. And still trying to get them to do estate planning has been its own challenge. Yes. So listen, I'm sure he was like, as long as my check cashed, I done gave her the advice. What she do with it is on her. And I tell people all the time, we are here to not only share this information, we want to make it so readily available. But again, we know that some people are hearing the sound of our voice right now and they still not going to be motivated to act.
That's true.
And that's just the reality.
I mean, I think her death is a powerful reminder that anytime someone passes without a will, their assets are subject to intestate succession, which means the state gets to determine how things are distributed. And
she had 4 kids. Remember, she had 4 kids at the time of her death. And now some say she died without a will. Some said she tried to draft her own will and had some scribbles on paper.
Which is also not positive.
Right. Which in some states is not a will. So,
right.
It just could have been so much cleaner. And everybody knows how private she was as a
that is
person.
True.
And I think that that's the part that people maybe don't even take into consideration. If you lived your life as a private person and you want your things to just naturally go to the people you want them to go to without a whole lot of drama, then you have to do something.
Absolutely.
I don't think for a minute that Aretha Franklin would want all the publicity, the tabloids, the press, people fighting, talking about what she left behind, because that's just not how she lived her life.
Right.
And so, she is just this really powerful reminder about what happens and how messy it can get.
Absolutely. The other thing I think is interesting when you're looking at states deciding how things get distributed is, for instance, in Georgia, if you die with no will and you have a spouse and no descendants, okay, the spouse gets everything. If you die with a spouse and kids, your spouse and kids share everything. Your spouse's share can't be less than a third. There are people who are estranged from family members, and they would never want them to automatically get a distribution of their assets. Plenty of couples who would want the entire remaining estate to go to their surviving spouse. And so I think the law is, it has to be a template. It has to be an objective for any family. But it just goes to show that they don't know what your family dynamics are. And so when you're looking at what the law says about how things are to be distributed, that may fly directly in the face of what is going on in your family. But there is nothing that can be done if there is no will.
I can think of a situation right now. The mother passed and she had some separate bank accounts that she wanted for her kids. And she told her kids about the accounts. Now, whether her spouse knew or not, I do not know. But the intention was always these funds were put aside so that my kids could have them. And she passed without a will. And now they're going to have to go to court. Yes. And the court is going to say, 1/3 of this is going to your spouse, to her spouse. Right. And the kids will have to share the remaining amount. And the kids looked at me crazy when they were like, but she didn't want him to have any. And I had to just be real honest. Well, she should have wrote that down.
And that's really important when you're thinking of blended families, right? Yes. Where you're married to someone who also is not the parent of your children. It's important for you to write it down, because when you're married to someone and you are both the parents of all of your children, you're like, even if this person gets all of it, I know they're going to leave it to our children. When the spouse is different from the parent of the children, it makes things a lot more murky, and it almost becomes a requirement that you need to make sure that it is written down. Otherwise, it is a guaranteed fight between your spouse and your children.
Yes, yes, yes. Whew. Okay.
I know.
Take a breath. Take a breath.
It's been a lot. It's a lot. Okay.
But we did this episode because we wanted to highlight some celebrities. But again, we wanted y'all to understand that it's not special or unique to celebrities. No. For the rest of us, if we do not have a will, our private matters are going to become public. We are going to end up in court. News outlets are not going to be concerned about you and me. Right. But your family certain will be. Your family certain will be, as they are trying to all lawyer up and figure out who's going to get what. And that's what it comes to. And I want people to understand too, if everybody's having a lawyer up and everybody's going to have to go to court, it takes a lot longer to settle everything. Now we are at the disposal of a judge.
Absolutely. And the money that you're spending for all of that, you could have had, like, that's money that's out of your pocket. And so it's usually for most people, the two most important things is time and money. Yeah. And when you don't do your estate planning, if you don't have a will, if you don't have a trust, those are the two things that are going to be affected the most: time and money.
And I mean, legal battles, and we know, but legal battles are financially and emotionally draining.
Absolutely.
So not only is it going to drain the funds out of the estate, but just think about what effect that has on the relationships of the people that have been left behind. Absolutely. We're on two sides of a fight now. We are in the middle and the throes of a fight. And so I don't know that it's realistic to think that everybody's just going to kind of hug it out.
And it keeps it fresh, right? You're not able to grieve and move on because you're in court battling it out. And it keeps all of the hurt and pain and the grief over this person passing, it keeps it right there in the forefront. And so really it puts a pause on your life, on your ability to be able to move on, because you're busy in court fighting over what the person left behind.
That is so true. So I think that that's it. I mean, really, if you get nothing else out of this episode during this here Black History Month,
yes, Lord,
talk to your parents, see if they got updated wills. Not just do they have a will, but do they have updated wills? Yes. And then look at yourself and look at your own family dynamic. Do you have a will? Do you have something that's going to speak to you and for you and to your family about what it is that you want, especially if you're in a blended family? Do you have the documents in place that's going to make sure things go to those family members? It's not a complicated process. I think so many times people think that, oh my God, I'm going to have to take months and it's going to drag out. But putting together a will or a trust, because some people listening might need a trust instead of a will because of their family dynamics, it's really harmless. It is really, I tell people, listen, the lawyers are doing the heavy lifting.
That's true.
You come in, you tell us what you need, we help you get there. Absolutely. That's the bottom line. I tell sometimes putting together a trust can be just like in life insurance. Once you do it, it may not be exciting, but once you do it, that relief and that taking that weight off your shoulders, it's going to go for so far. It's going to go a long way for you and your family.
Totally agree.
So that's it for us today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope that this was helpful, made you think about your own family, made you think about what you're going to go and get done and what documents you need to put in place. As always, we love to hear from you. We love feedback. We love comments. Y'all know this is a safe place, no judgment. We want to hear what's going on with you and your family. And any questions that you have, please reach out. We can have those tough conversations, or we can help you figure out how you need to have those conversations with your parents.
Yes.
So connect with us on Facebook and Instagram. Talk to y'all next time.
See you later.
Thanks for joining us this week on Black Parents Aging. Check out our Facebook group at Black Parents Aging, where we go live to answer your questions. For more info on today's topic, check out the show notes on our website, srlawgrp.com. If you know someone who could benefit from today's episode, please share a link to the show. Subscribe to the show to catch new episodes and leave a review. Until next week.